you doing?
Good. I didn't get a good clock on you, but you were definitely going faster than the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Is this 25 over here? I thought it was just this section.
Well, it's wherever the signs are. You just passed 4 of them.
What is going on, Swayze gang? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. In today's video, we're actually going to go pick up a vehicle that you guys have never before seen on the channel. Alrighty, I hope you boys and girls are ready because I am staring at the vehicle that I just picked up and well, without further ado, here it is. Alrighty, so if you can't tell already, this is the Vanderhall Motor Works Venice. They have a few different models. They all look essentially the same, but this is actually a manufacturer here out of Provo, Utah. So this is a local Utah manufacturer, which this is probably the only one in Utah. And it's a really interesting looking car. As you guys can tell, this is a 3-wheel vehicle. So what's interesting is it's actually front-wheel drive. So it's similar to the Polaris Slingshot, but the difference is the Slingshot is actually a rear-wheel drive vehicle, and this is a front-wheel drive. So Vanderhall was actually founded in 2010, and Jay Leno's Garage actually has a few different models that they've shown off on that TV show and YouTube videos. So if you guys are interested in some of the specs, definitely check it out. But they have a few different models, this one being kind of their entry level, that's the Venice. Then you have the Carmel, or I think Carmel is how they call it. And then you've actually got the Edison, which is an electric version of this vehicle. And then they're also in the works for building like an off-road 4-wheel vehicle as well that's going to be electric, but that's in the future. These things range in price anywhere from beginning at around $25,000 or so. This particular model is, I believe, close to $30,000. And then you can get them outfitted upwards of like $46,000 or $47,000 if you get like a roof to it and some other features as well. There's really not much to talk about in terms of specs. These are pretty simple, straightforward cars. There's like no tech on the inside, which we'll jump to in just a second. But I want to briefly talk about the design of this vehicle. Technically, it's a motorcycle by some state regulations, but you don't have to have a motorcycle license to ride in it. But to me, the looks of this car are just spot on, exactly what you want from a vehicle like this. It looks like something out of the 1920s, and at the same time, it's also part of the 21st century. So they really did a fantastic job with designing this vehicle, and I honestly can't really complain about anything. It just looks really cool, and the amount of looks you get driving down the road is just more than like a Ferrari. It's really insane how a car like this gets so much attention. One thing to point out about the cool headlights up front, as you can see, they're actually behind the grille of the vehicle, but the way they're designed, the LEDs are actually spaced perfectly in between the grill slots, so when you have these on at night, the grill does not get in the way and show like lines on the road. So it's just perfectly designed that way to evenly space the LEDs. Other than that, there's not really much up front. You got the little bit of intercooler and the radiator back here. Speaking of intercooler, this is a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. Before 2020, this is a 2020 model. Before 2020, it was a 1.4 liter. Not a huge difference in power output. It went from about 180 horsepower to about 195 horsepower. They all come with the standard 6-speed automatic transmission, which we'll get to in a second on the inside. But to finish off the outside, you've got The exhaust tips coming out over here. The hood actually does not open, so I can't show you what the engine looks like, but the suspension here is really interesting because it's kind of got this like swivel design because there's just not much space to put a full suspension arm in here, so that's kind of interesting. But other than that, you know, that's bare bones up front. Moving over to the back of the car, you got the gas tank over here, and then that's pretty much it. Just one wheel and a small little license plate with the words Vanderhall down here. What's interesting is instead of the reflectors, they actually have the wheels have the reflectors on them. So you have the red back here, and you've actually got the yellow up front over here. So a really minimalistic design, and I absolutely love it. I think this looks a little bit different than all the other three-wheel cars. I guess there's only a few out there, but like the Polaris Slingshot has a totally different stance and a totally different look and almost a different purpose as compared to this Vanderhall. And then back here, you've got finished off in Venice over here. So very classy, very kind of maybe European / California style, even though it's made here in Utah. So now let's jump on the inside and show you the pretty much 5 features that it has inside the cabin. This is actually a shift knob. So this is a 6-speed automatic transmission, which you control with this lever down here. But if you put it into manual mode, you can actually use this kind of like a paddle shifter. You push it towards you to shift up, and you actually push it away from you to shift down. So a little bit more functionality with just the regular automatic transmission, and it shifts pretty quick considering this is just a regular torque converter automatic. Coming over to the gauges, I just love how they look. It looks just like the old school cars or like something out of a fighter jet. It's just got this kind of aviation style theme to it, and I absolutely love it. You've got Vanderhall here. Can go up to 160. Like I said, it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged. It's actually a General Motors engine, so you can technically take it up to 160 miles an hour. Although I'd be a little bit scared driving this thing on the freeway. You've got your gas gauge over here, and then just your RPMs and engine oil temperature. Over here, you've got what gear you're in, which is actually pretty helpful if you're using the slapstick shifter. And then you've got how much boost you have. One of the things I absolutely love about this car is the sound of the turbo blow off when you're accelerating down the road. It just sounds so cool because you are so close to the engine and it's so open air that even though most other cars have the same sound, it just doesn't sound the same because you aren't as close to the engine. Down here you've got your fan, so this does come with a heater. It does not have AC, but you know, you can pull on it to get the heating started and push it in so that you just get the regular outside air coming in. This car does have Bluetooth, and this is how you control it. And then this is your fan speed over here. Now what I love about this is, again, going off of the aviation style interior, you've got switches for your cruise control, for your Bluetooth, for your traction control, and then for your hazards. And then these are just the fans down here. There's nothing else inside of the car aside from the seat belts. You've got a small little glove compartment over there, and my favorite feature, which is this wooden steering wheel that looks so retro and is probably the best steering wheel you can get on any car. Even though it is thin, it kind of gives you that retro look that you're looking for when you're driving a car like this. And then you've got your turn signals here. There's a small little digital display here that shows your mileage and then whether you're in parking, reverse, neutral, or drive, or the manual mode. And then this is actually push to start, although I believe the previous versions of this car did have a physical key. And that finishes off the interior. One of the things I love about this Venice edition is that caramel color brown interior. I think it adds to the look of this white with the brown inside. I think a black with that brown interior would look really good. The contrast just looks amazing. And that is pretty much it to this Vanderhall. There's really not much more to it. It's all about the driving experience. This would be a good replacement to like a Miata or some sort of, you know, Canyon Carver or a sports car, because this is not your primary daily driver. I don't know of anybody who would do that. I wouldn't even want to drive this thing on the freeway. But for weekends, for, you know, recreational purposes, this thing is a blast to drive. Speaking of which, let's jump inside and let me show you a POV view of what it's like riding in the Vanderhall Venice. All right, now getting into the car is not the easiest thing to do. There's actually no doors, so you kind of have to put in one foot after the other and wiggle yourself in before falling into the seat. Now, once you're in the seat, it's actually pretty comfortable. It's a nice place to be, but getting out of the car is no easier, possibly even harder, because you kind of have to hoist yourself up since there's not really a grab handle, and then pull one foot out after the other. So definitely for someone who's a little bit more flexible, but still, once you're in it, it's a very nice place to be. right, taking off in the Vanderhall Venice. I gotta say, the sound of that turbo and the way it spools up and that wastegate, that's part of the experience of driving this car that makes it so fantastic. And I gotta say, they did the exhaust very well too. It sounds just loud enough for a car this size, but not overwhelming. Talking about acceleration, this car actually does 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. And the way it does that is, like I said, it has a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces about 194 horsepower and 203 pound-feet of torque, which is an amazing amount of torque for a car this size. And it's also able to deliver that amount of acceleration because it only weighs about 1,500 pounds. Now, when it comes to handling, it's what you could kind of expect from a 3-wheel vehicle. I believe it handles a little bit better than the Polaris Slingshot because this is a front-wheel drive car. But that being said, it's still a little wobbly on the turns. You're still not 100% sure where it's driving. It almost has kind of an understeer going to it. But you just can't trust it. I don't know exactly where it's headed, so I'm not going to push it on the corners. But still, I mean, it's not like it's dangerous or I'm scared. It's just a little bit of level of excitement that you may not expect from a 4-wheel car. It's just so fun to drive this car. It's so low to the ground and so different. I got my fiance here, and she's driven this car as well, and it's unlike any other car I've ever driven. I mean, I'm like a foot off the ground here, and I'm just flying at 45 miles an hour. And the looks this car gets is also like no other vehicle. You always get the honking, you get the thumbs up. It's definitely something that turns heads. So if I put it in manual mode by pushing down and further down, I put it with the slapstick manual, and you control it by pulling up to shift up and then pushing away to shift down. And it's pretty quick. It's not, dual clutch territory, but it's not bad for, a torque converter automatic. I can't fault it for shifting a little slow because you're probably not going to use this that often. Although I do wish this car did have a manual transmission as an option. I think it'd be really fun for a car this size with this type of engine. A manual is kind of necessary, but the automatic isn't bad. So I'm going to quickly talk about the switches we have here. So this is the Bluetooth radio, which you switch on and off. There's no conventional radio system. You do actually have cruise control, which I haven't used yet, but you set it or you turn it on by clicking here, and then you set it up and down by clicking these buttons here. I don't know if anybody's really going to use cruise control because that's typically for long haul trips, but that is an option. You also have, the traction control on and off. I wouldn't risk turning it off, especially with a car with 3 wheels. Then you've got the hazard here. This is your heater, and you actually, pull it up to turn the heater on, and then you push it in and control the fan speed through these 2 vents over here using the fan motor. And then this is how you control your Bluetooth by skipping songs or going back and pushing play and pause. And then you've actually got heated seats on this car right down here. You flip the switch down near the seat, and you can drive this car in the winter. Not sure who's actually going to do that, but that is an option for you. One thing that's a little bit annoying is the left and right turn signal on the dash. The lights that show that the blinker is actually on are very dim, and so when the sun is coming down, you can't really tell whether you have your blinker on, and it's sometimes a little hard to read this gauge, but you can't have everything perfect. It's a really interesting experience driving this. I've never driven a hot rod, but I imagine this is kind of what it feels like. I mean, you're pretty much just sitting on the floor pan, and you know, it's just a very visceral experience. What I love is the throttle response is amazing, and the brakes are similar to my Hellcat. I mean, I don't know if they're Brembos, but they definitely feel like it. It can definitely stop in a pinch without even a problem. Another thing that's missing on this car is cup holders. I just, you know, not that I really want to have a big gulp while I'm driving, but it would be nice to have a place for a water bottle, especially when you're exposed to the elements. There's just no cup holders here. And one complaint I have with the Bluetooth system is you can't actually change the volume, from what I can tell using this knob. You only adjust it with the volume on your phone. So that's a little annoying. I wish they had a volume knob. And I also wish they had a conventional radio, because those things aren't very heavy, they're not very expensive, but it would add a little bit of functionality to the car. But other than that, this car really is a joy to ride. If you are able to drive one for a day or rent it, I definitely recommend you do so, because not only does it turn heads, not only is it a thrill to drive, it's got the right engine, it's got a really good transmission, although I wish there was a manual. And the way you smile when you sit behind the wheel of this car is unlike any other. You know, the wind in your hair and not a care in the world. And that just never gets old. So if you guys ever get a chance, definitely do so. Overall, I'm very impressed with the Vanderhall Venice. All right, Swayze gang. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'm here with the fiance because we decided to do a post-dinner run to get some cookies, and we thought, what better vehicle to take than the Vanderhall Venice? So I apologize for the lighting. It is a little bit dark, but to finish off today's video, I had an absolute blast. I think we both did.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Such a fun car to drive, and even though it is a little bit on the pricier end for what it is, I think it's worth it because the amount of fun that you have driving down the road, the smile that you have on your face every single time that turbo just spools up, it's super fun, and it's different than any other car out there. It's funny because, you know, we were showing off our friends and family, and, you know, their first reaction is, oh, it looks kind of fun, you know, no, I don't want to drive it. And as soon as they drive it and they hop in the driver's seat or even in the passenger seat, they're gone for like 20 minutes. Like they,
yeah.
You know, it's one of those cars where it looks fun, but it's actually even funner to drive. And so, you know, my overall verdict is on the pricey end, but if you're looking for a car like this, you probably have a little bit of extra money to spend for something like that. And it's definitely worth it. It's totally different than anything else on the road. And I would say if you have the extra 20 to 30 to 35K, it's probably worth it, but make sure you test drive it before you make that final decision. As always, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, make sure you do so and hit the notification bell so you can stay on top of all of the weekly videos. Also, make sure to go back and check out all the previous reviews I've done on many different cars. And if you guys aren't following me on Instagram and TikTok at Swayze_, make sure you do so. Until next time, stay Swayze, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. I'm gonna go get some cookies.
Cookies! Look at that. You over there too.
Yeah, cool shot.
Yeah, because it's like over there.
Oh wow, that is one hell of a car.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Is it fast?
It's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick.
Wow, okay,
Guys, we get it.
awesome. Okay, what can I get for you?
We'll get the